Hi, boys and girls. Miss Belanca here. I wanted to talk to you a little bit more today about our five-finger retelling. We have been working hard on that, and good readers, to help them understand what they're reading, should be able to do a retelling that includes important details. So the book that I have for you today is called Tacky the Penguin by Helen Lester. When I look at the cover, which is right here, I see, obviously, Tacky, and I'm guessing he's going to be important in the story because he's in the title. And I see a couple of friends or people standing around him. So I'm thinking that maybe these are his friends, or maybe these are people or animals that are upset with him for some reason. I don't really know. I'm going to have to read more to get some information. So let's take a look at our book. There once lived a penguin. His home was a nice icy land he shared with his companions. Ooh, as a reader, I'm going to stop. Put your five-finger retelling up. Think about if you have information for some of those retelling parts. Here's how you can say it. You can say it out loud. You can tell a grown-up if they're around, or you can just think about it in your head. I'm going to give you a minute to do that. Think about, are there any parts of our five-finger retelling that we could get information for? Remember, a five-finger retelling is character, setting, beginning, middle, and end. And good readers should be able to talk about all of those different parts. I'm going to give you a minute. You may want to pause the video if you need time to think. All right, let's see if your thinking matches my thinking. I'm thinking that we can tell the story or the character because I already know it's Tacky and he's a penguin. I also learned some more information. I learned that Tacky lives in an icy land. That's the setting of our story. So boy, now I need to think about the beginning, the middle, and the end. Let's read a little more and see if we can think about those parts next. His companions were named Goodly, Lovely, Angel, Neatly, and Perfect. His name was Tacky. Tacky was an odd bird. Every day, Goodly, Lovely, Angel, Neatly, and Perfect greeted each other quietly and politely. Tacky greeted them with a hearty slap on the back and a loud, "What's happening?" Goodly, Lovely, Angel, Neatly, and Perfect always marched 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Tacky always marched 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 6, 0, 2.5, 0. Ooh, I'm going to stop because I'm a couple pages into my book, which tells me that I'm really getting to the beginning part. Let's think about our beginning. Here's what I found. Actually, I want you to stop and think, what has happened that's important for a reader to know or think about? If you had a friend who had never read this story, what would you tell them happened in the beginning? I'm going to stop. I want you to think about it. You can say it out loud. You can talk to an adult or think about it in your head. You can also pause the video if you need some time to do these jobs. Let's see if your thinking matches my thinking. I'm thinking that Tacky lives with penguins and they seem to do a lot of things right or perfect. Tacky doesn't always do things perfectly, like his marching. Let's find out what happens in the middle of this story. His companions were graceful divers. Tacky liked to do splashy cannonballs. Goodly, Lovely, Angel, Neatly, and Perfect always sang pretty songs like Sunrise on the Iceberg. Tacky always sang songs like How Many Toes Does a Fish Have? Tacky was an odd bird. One day the penguins heard the thump, thump, thump of feet in the distance. This could mean only one thing. Hunters had come. Now, I'm also thinking that is probably going to be a problem because usually when hunters come to a place, we have to make sure that the animals stay safe. I'm also thinking I should probably read a little bit more before I try to do my middle of my story because I think I need a little bit more information. They came with maps and traps and rocks and locks, and they were rough and tough. As the thump, thump, thump drew closer, the penguins could hear the growly voices chanting, "We're going to catch some pretty penguins and we'll march them with a switch and we'll sell them for $1 and get rich, rich, rich." Goodly, lovely, angel, neatly, and perfect ran away in fright. They hid behind a block of ice. Tacky stood alone. The hunters marched right up to him, chanting, "We're going to catch some pretty penguins and we'll march them with a switch and we'll sell them for $1 and get rich, rich, rich." I want to stop because I think I'm pretty close to being in the middle of my story. So as a good reader, I want to think about what are the important events or parts of the story that I need to tell so that the person that I'm telling or thinking of, if I'm thinking about the story, I'm understanding what I'm reading. Okay? So I want you to stop. Can you talk about what are some of the things or events that happened in the middle of this story? There are some important things that you should think about. Again, you can say them out loud to yourself, you can talk to an adult, or you can think about them in your head. Go ahead and stop the video for a minute so that you get some ideas, and then we'll talk about what are some of the important things that you should have thought about. All right, hopefully you went ahead and either thought about it in your head, talked to a grown-up, or said it out loud. The thing that's really important here is we've already talked about in the beginning how Tacky maybe didn't do things as perfectly as some of the people or his friends that he lived with. The middle of this story, the important factor, information, or detail that I need to tell is that we have hunters that are coming and are dangerous to the penguins. And in the middle of our story, we have Tacky, who has just met the group of hunters. Ooh, I'm thinking a lot. I have a lot of questions. I'm thinking about some predictions. Is Tacky going to be safe? Is he going to be okay? Is he going to somehow help some of the other penguins? As a good reader, I'm thinking all of this in my head. Let's see how the story ends. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, remember in the middle, we've talked about how that's a lot of times where we know what our problem is. Well, now we know that the problem in the story is that hunters have come and the penguins are not safe. We also know at the end that a lot of times our problem is solved. Not all the time, but a lot of times. So let's see if we can figure out, does this problem get solved by the end of the story? "What's happening?" blared Tacky, giving one hunter an especially hearty slap on the back. They growled, "We're hunting for penguins. That's what's happening." "Penguins?" said Tacky. "Do you mean those birds that march neatly in a row?" And he marched 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 6, 0, 2.5, 0. The hunters looked puzzled. "Do you mean those birds that dive so gracefully?" Tacky asked. And he did a splashy cannonball. The hunters looked wet. "Do you mean those birds that sing such pretty songs?" Tacky began to sing, and from behind the block of ice came the voices of his companions, all singing as loudly and dreadfully as they could. "How many toes does a fish have and how many wings on a cow? I wonder, yep, I wonder." The hunters could not stand the horrible singing. This could not be the land of the pretty penguins. They ran away with their hands clasped tightly over their ears, leaving behind their maps and traps and rocks and locks, and not looking at all rough and tough. Goodly, lovely, angel, neatly, and perfect hugged Tacky. Tacky was an odd bird, but a very nice bird to have around. All right, my friends, I want you to stop the video and I want you to tell me the important parts or events that happened at the end of this story. Take a minute and then we'll talk about it. All right, hopefully you came up with the idea that Tacky pretends not to be a penguin and convinces the hunters that there were no penguins around for them to catch, and the hunters end up leaving. So Tacky has saved himself and all of his friends. That's my 5-finger retelling. Okay? Hopefully your retelling went pretty close and matched mine. It doesn't have to match perfectly, but that you got all the important parts. Good readers in first grade, they retell all of the details that someone needs to know in order to understand a story. Okay? All right, my friends, I'm sure you did a wonderful job. Happy reading.